What's up, basketball you? Thank you for tuning in as you always do. You already know what to do. Share it, like it, talk about it, all right? In the comments. Hit it below. We're on day 2. As I told you before, I'm going to do my best to document each and every day, all the way up to championship day or whatever successful day this team has. And as we continue to grind, I again appreciate you taking this journey with me in the art of sport. Open gym with CW, day 2. So as we go into practices, our main focus again, like I said, is character. Okay? But on top of character, it's how hard we work. Are we working hard? Are we giving it everything? And in this particular time, after the first good practice, everyone seems to be happy. And you don't want to get complacent, but at times in this generation, we do. So with the valiant effort of continuing the positivity and encouragement of these young student athletes, we continue to provide a lot of support, not only mentally, but physically. And what we're looking for here is who is going to step up and take leadership. This is a team who has had older leaders for a very long term in regards to the history of Clovis West. And right now, because some of the younger players are becoming better players faster in the program, they tend to want to take that leadership role. And by all means, it's allowable in the right context of players not only physically showing it, but working on verbally showing it as well. Because players do their work diligently, but can they make other players around them better? And not just with their play, but how they coach and talk to each other. So that's a very important tool when it comes to building the chemistry aspect of things. And so that's what we're looking for here in day 2. It's how we build chemistry. Now, a lot of it can be putting the best guys together, and then there's splitting those guys up, because the chemistry isn't always on the best players understanding how to get together and be good with each other. It's about everyone figuring out how to play in adversity when they're playing with a lesser player, whether it's skill or a lesser player that doesn't have an IQ, or a lesser player that has all those qualities, but the processing of making it happen on time is another situation that you can run into that messes up chemistry. So a lot of splitting up always causes a little adversity, because there's a little bit of gap in talent when it comes to not having all of our players available to us. So one thing that's important when showing this to our players on film is it's not so much about whether or not they can compete with the best. It's, are we doing everything right to have a chance to at least be close, so that the gap is even larger when you come together. All right. So we're still talking to our players that are developing, and we're working on their confidence as well. And we're starting to see improvement from the fall league up till this point right now. And now the intensity has picked up. So we're seeing them digress a little bit, but they are willing to take the challenge. And I've seen them coach up each other, which is awesome. And again, for day 2, that is very good, because a lot of times when you get lesser players playing against the better players, they tend to kind of fade away and just disappear. And they are competing, and that is just, again, a blessing to see. And as a coach, if you don't have to step in to try to lead or help them, and they're helping each other, I mean, that's half the battle, and you're on your way. Another thing that I've seen in day 2 is the ability for the player that doesn't want to compete each and every day slowly see that they're going to have to pick it up and do that every day in order to achieve the goal that they want at the end of the year. And it's not to say that players are making them play. It's them seeing the intensity of other players and saying, if I don't pick it up, I'm not going to look good. So I like that because, again, it's a form of leadership that's happening as a cohesive group, opposed to someone saying, hey, you need to go harder, right? And one thing that I've seen, and it's early, I haven't really seen anyone single anyone out and saying that they're not going hard yet. There's been more of a positive talk to where they've just been saying, hey, I need you to run harder on down the floor, or I need you to cut and look to score, or something along those lines, which, again, if you don't have to say it as a coach and you can just sit back and watch this thing happen, it's beautiful. And the goals of what we've been talking about in the last 2 days have been accomplished, and they're going to continue to reach a different height depending on how much work is put in outside of practice, but the right work. So after being here for 4 years, I look at how much work has been put in, what is done to the players as far as physically, and then also what it's done mentally. And there are times where players will get burnt out. And the biggest thing is, what type of burnout are they experiencing? And how can you manage it? Not NBA manage like load management. Manage it to a way where when they are working, every time they come out of the gym, they feel good about the workout instead of tired from the workout. And so that is kind of what I've scaled the development piece on as we move forward, knowing certain limitations to certain players. So now that I know that in my 4th year, I know how to kind of gauge a certain number, which you don't really want to put a limit on made shots, made free throws, because then that's the number they're going to try to reach. And if you reach it at the beginning of the week, then you don't think you have to work the rest of the week. So just an example of what that looks like. And so now I understand, let's get in on this day and do a little extra work. Let's get in on this day and do a little extra work. Let me gauge how they feel after a practice, and then possibly what they look like in the morning to figure out, okay, this is a good day for them to come in and do this. So just in a broad scope, it's just more about managing their mentality towards the extra work, and then how do they feel after the extra work. If they don't feel like they've gotten anything done or they're not getting better, they're not going to want to come to the extra work. So I always keep that in context. All right. There's something to think about for coaches maybe possibly listening, or even players, for yourself that's listening. You just want to keep the mental aspect just as fresh as you would physically when it comes to training or working hard or whatever. So just keep that clear mind. And then not to mention you have school and some other things that you're dealing with off the court. So want to keep that fresh. And then another thing that I love about the coaching staff, and it's just something I'm touching on because I've touched on our players and their mentality already. The mentality of the coaching staff has always been the same since I've been here for the 4 years. And it's just, how can we get better? Now, looking at past records, they've been impressive. And not that winning means everything, but it does have a lot to do with the feeling of a program, the feeling of the community, the success of kids moving on to college, as we have had, I believe, in the 4 years, we've had 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm counting. We have about 4. Okay, 4 guys go to college, and then we have some current players that played in the past in college still, and I believe 1 or 2 have played pro overseas. So when looking at that, the coaches have done a really good job of trying to figure out in their realm of what they understand that they're really good at, whether it's a coach talking about the press, whether it's a coach understanding an individual player, whether it's a coach understanding offensive schemes, whatever that may be. Talking to the head coach and communicating has been great because he's been very receptive. And then to see him create things that have been talked about just makes it easier for whatever coach brought it up to coach that particular drill and really have their input. So that is another thing that I think is a plus from the 4 years that I've been here and have seen. So again, like I said, day 2, awesome. Definitely had to touch on some different things with younger players and figuring out plays and movement on the floor based on what we do in our system. And other than that, I mean, our older guys are just great, and looking forward to talking more about them and seeing the progression through the season as we get geared up and ready to go for travel and going from there. All right, Basketball U, appreciate you tuning in. And like I said, I hope it's enough content for you to keep you busy for a while. And go ahead and tune in tomorrow, because day 3 is upon us, and we're just looking to get better. And don't forget, someone's always working. Are you?